First question, sort of just via show of hands, is what kind of sectors you're working in. So can I just see via show of hands anybody that's working in the commercial private sector at the moment? Okay, 3. Public sector, expecting to see a few more hands go up based on the attendee list. Okay, not-for-profit, charity, great. And the hands that didn't go up, anybody want to tell me what sort of sectors you're in that haven't covered off? Okay, is anybody in the room currently taking service from a public cloud provider at the moment? So Microsoft, Google, Google Apps, Microsoft Office 365, anything like that at all? Salesforce.com? One hand again, 2 hands, okay. Anybody running their own internal private clouds for your organisations at the moment? God, you guys are hard work. 2, okay. Who's sick and tired hearing about cloud? Okay, but actually you guys screwed pretty much for the next 30 minutes or so while I sort of waffle on. Final group of questions really. Can everybody please just stand up? I did say it's audience participation time. It's mandatory. Just want to get a feel for the size of the organisations that we have in the room so that I can hopefully tailor some of the content, skip over the stuff that isn't relevant. So anybody 50 employees or less, if you just please sit down. That's 1 person so far. Anybody under 250? More? Under 500? That's about half the room. Under 1,000? 2,500? 5,000? And that's it, I've run out of numbers now. So that's obviously pretty big. Great, thank you. So, journey to the cloud. What's it all about? There's obviously one of the things Jonathan said during his initial presentation is that it's a pretty new technology, something that's sort of quite new to market. But actually, cloud computing has been around for quite a while. I mean, if you go back to the days of application service provision, delivering services via the cloud, utility computing, software as a service, it's just the latest spin that the analysts basically put on it that starts to now gain traction and adoption within the marketplace. And I always like to sort of put up a quote from Gartner. Thomas Pittman, who's one of the research directors at Gartner, made these predictions which relate to enterprise IT and small business IT back in December of 2008. So 2.5 years ago, this is what he was predicting for the market. So he goes on to say, the future of corporate IT is in private clouds. Flexible computing networks, modelled after public providers such as Google and Amazon, yet built and managed internally for each business's users. His belief is very much that the future of enterprise IT will lie in private cloud solutions. And I'm going to go on and define what's the difference between private and public cloud in a couple of slides' time. If you're a small to medium-sized business, and this was the reason for trying to get a feel for the room, so the organisation is really sub 500 users and below. He goes on to say that over time, small business will not have economies of scale to make it worth staying in the IT business. Within 5 years, a huge percentage of small businesses get most of their computing resources from external cloud providers. And this is a trend that we're starting to see within the market. So considering this was actually made as a prediction 2.5 years ago, we're 2.5 years in, we're just starting to get to the point where the momentum is starting to build around public cloud services and also sort of private cloud as well. So cloud computing, what's it all about effectively? At Intercept, we effectively define it really in sort of terms of 3 sectors: public, private, hybrid. And this is something that's touched on by Ian in his presentation from Mitel in that similar sort of model. So everybody really has pretty much defined cloud computing models in a similar sort of vein. The cloud computing really is simply an IT service that's delivered from a centralised place to anyone over any connection anywhere in the world. Anybody want to disagree with that? Great. So in terms of public cloud solutions, you've really got things like vanilla cloud services from the likes of Office 365, Microsoft and Google. You've got standalone ISV cloud delivered applications. Probably the most popular and well known in the market at the moment is Salesforce.com, who have a very, very large user base and a very, very good platform. At Intercept, we deliver what we call bespoke cloud solutions, so things which we build and tailor for our individual client needs, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all sort of platform. And then you've got the platform and infrastructure service providers, the likes of Savis, Rackspace, where they effectively will build out their own platform, scale it up, and scale it out on demand. Private cloud solutions, and this is where trying to get a feel again for the size of the organisations in the room, those sort of people, 500 to multiple thousands of seats. You're not unlikely to take your services from a public cloud provider. You're going to take your existing infrastructure, scale it up, scale it out, and then deliver it to your users regardless of where they are. It's all about the end user experience. And we do see obviously some organisations, particularly with large or deep pockets, where they're SMEs, where effectively they can afford to build out their own platforms. But public cloud is very much about taking a platform, extending it out, and having multi-tenancy with shared economies of scale, particularly with an SME, and then deliver customized service to each organisation. And in terms of hybrid clouds, it's very much a mix and match operation. So what we are seeing is there's been some very high-profile cases where organisations have taken services from Microsoft as an example, or from Google, where they've outsourced their email, a particular pain point in the organisation, and integrated that with all their internal IT solutions. Obviously, judging again by the show of hands we saw earlier, there's only maybe one or two you doing that in the room as it stands at the moment. And obviously there's a lot of risks. I mean, certainly public sector, which is a high proportion of the room, there's obviously lots of challenges around governance, compliance, and how you handle sort of security aspects and things like that as well. So, this slide may look familiar to anybody that sort of sees the Gartner infrastructure readiness assessment charts. Anybody seen this sort of slide before? No, okay. So, tough audience. It's designed to basically show where you are in terms of the life cycle and implementation of the IT services that you deliver back into your organisations. So, most of the SME organisations will tend to fit pretty much in the first two columns, where they're very much reactive to the demands and changes of the organisation, probably don't have any real SLAs or operational level agreements within the organisation. As I say, they tend to be sort of very reactive and not necessarily that forward thinking. Chances are they're not really using any virtualization technologies, and there may be a few organisations which sort of think they sort of fit within there. When some of the questions were asked earlier, we obviously saw quite a few hands, over 50% of the room said that you have virtualised in some shape or form. So those organisations very much will fit in the blue columns in terms of the economies of scale. So you can actually respond a lot more quickly to the demands of your organisation in terms of provisioning servers, providing access to users, probably providing some form of hosted or managed desktop at the moment to your users using Citrix or VMware or something like that, and extending the architecture of your environment out to your users so they can actually get access from anywhere. And then the final sort of section in green is really moving to this service-orientated architecture, the ability to respond quickly to the needs of your organisations, so that when they make requests of you as IT departments or IT managers, directors or IT staff, you can respond dynamically and quickly to those needs, whether that's provisioning a new server, whether it's taking a new application to market, extending an application out to new users. There's a whole host of things where we become much more sort of responsive to the needs and changes of an organisation. Now, again, looking around the room, I've been in IT for 25 odd years. You may not believe it to look at me. I know I look very young for my age. But some of you guys, I can tell, have been in IT probably quite a while as well. And I class us as the legacy guys. I'm not winning any friends in this presentation. I'll buy you all a drink afterwards, I promise. But we've been in IT for quite a while, so I'm what we class as the legacy guys of IT. I like to keep control, I like to maintain control of my data, my servers, and know what my users are up to. But we're seeing a consumerisation of IT, the younger people coming into the workforce, the people which are used to consuming real-time applications from Facebook, Twitter, email, online banking, social media. So they're used to sort of just being able to go to the Apple iStore and buy a new application and have it available immediately. Yet as IT departments, we say to them, sorry, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or you can't have it at all. So we're seeing the mindset changing. And this is what the service-oriented architecture is all about, to be able to respond dynamically to the changing needs of the younger workforce coming in. Because if we don't, they're going to start finding ways of circumventing all the IT controls and IT policies that we put in place to lock down these architectures. You'll find it's probably already happening even in your environments at the moment. Mobile devices, iPads, iPhones, Androids, all of these devices are probably connected into your corporate networks in some shape or form. You probably enable them to synchronize email. But what's your antivirus policy for locking down the devices? Do you provide centralized applications out to those devices? It's an absolute minefield in terms of how all this sort of stuff hangs together. So at Intercept, obviously I do have to do a slight sales pitch on you. I am technical rather than sales, so you can find lots of hopefully technically challenging questions at the end of the Q&A at the end. We really have two arms to our organisation. We do on-premise private cloud consultancy for medium to large enterprise customers, where we deliver server virtualization. So you've heard a lot from Ian about how they work with VMware. We're a VMware enterprise partner, we're a Citrix Platinum partner, we're a Microsoft Gold partner around virtualization. So we do all the server virtualization components. We were the first UK reseller of a product called Softricity back in 2004. If anybody knows what Softricity is, it's now the product known as Microsoft AppV, which does the application virtualization. So we have, again, excellent skills, excellent experience around that area. In terms of desktop virtualization, this is where cloud is really, really enabled. It's the ability to take a virtual desktop, whether that's running Citrix XenApp, VMware View, some form of other VDI, and taking the desktop and the applications and extending it out to users regardless of where they are in the world. And that's really where the enablement of cloud computing has all come from. You are hearing a lot of stuff about Web 2.0, organizations rewriting code to make applications available and delivered via a web interface directly from the cloud. But there's hundreds of thousands of applications out there in the real world that you as organizations have to still deliver and deploy to your users. So very much a VDI sort of platform is going to be used to enable that service delivery out to the cloud. And the second part of Intercept's business is we have a public cloud platform. It's a fully managed service, and I'll just cover that in the next couple of slides. So from our public cloud platform, we effectively have 2 tier 3 data centers. You commonly get or hear people get these data center classes wrong. Everybody thinks tier 1 is the best and tier 4 is the worst. It's actually the other way around. Tier 4 is the best data center, tier 1 is the worst. It's all about levels of resilience, redundancy and stuff like that. There's actually technically not any tier 4 data centers in the UK anymore after the classification was changed a few months ago. So pretty much everybody is a tier 3 at the moment. Our primary data center, you can actually almost see out the window, it's just over number 1 Brick Lane, and our DR site is over in Milton Keynes. It's an enterprise class computing platform that's effectively being designed for small to medium sized businesses. FSA compliant, uses 2-factor authentication, has lots of security and auditing capabilities built in. And unlike a lot of providers which are fading into the market, this is a platform that's actually been available for 9 years. So our first cloud customer was actually on this platform back in June 2002. Slightly difficult slide to read, so my apologies for that. But regardless of whether you call this the Intercept Cloud or your own private clouds, this is a very high level, logical view of what we believe your architecture should look like. So you're going to have multiple sites, potentially in your organization, with wide area network connectivity provided by Britannic, of course. Coming into your data centers with theoretically no single point of failure. So if you lose a primary site, the comms reroutes and then come over private connections back into your primary site. If you lose a primary data center, everything fails over to the DR site. You're probably going to have a high proportion of users working remotely as well. Now, if you're a public sector organisation, we're seeing lots of public sectors obviously coming under pressure from the government in terms of reduced IT spend, reduced just costs in general across the whole of the organisation. And what we're seeing a lot of public sector organisations do is try and shrink their footprint. So encourage more home working, using technology to actually reduce the costs and sort of shrinking everything down to sort of try and get down to these sort of really aggressive numbers that the government have put together in terms of shrinkage. So again, internet enabling devices coming in via load balanced firewalls. And then at the front end, you have your application clusters. So whether that's VDI, whether it's VMware, whether it's Citrix, whatever the technology is, it's irrelevant. It's about taking that desktop, delivering it out to users regardless of whether they're in one of your offices, working from home, working from a client site somewhere in the world, and then giving them the best possible end user experience in terms of latency, response times, ability and delivery of all their applications and all their data. And then behind that, you then have your virtual infrastructure, whether again that's VMware, Citrix, Microsoft, hypervisors, virtualized servers, providing then access to centralized data, which is then replicated off to a DR site, so you then have the ability to fail over. Now, regardless of whether that's the Intercept Cloud, it's your own private clouds, that's roughly how your architecture will look. And if it doesn't, then obviously we can help you with consultancy to sort of achieve that sort of service-oriented architecture. So just going to talk a little bit more about the public cloud side of it for those people in the room for which this is relevant. So we effectively have 5 products within the Intercept IT portfolio for our public cloud solutions. Our flagship product is called Online Desktop, which is an enterprise-delivered virtual desktop delivered using Citrix technology. From that, you can run a published desktop or a published application, and we will then take every single line of business application within your organization, regardless of whether that's a Windows app, a Mac app, a Unix app, mainframe, terminal emulation, and then deliver that out to your end users with all the back-end infrastructure that's required to run it, be that SQL servers, Oracle servers, Exchange, wherever the web boxes may be. It's not a solution that's necessarily going to fit every organization. There are lots of companies where they want to effectively move and lose the pain of running their IT. It's all about keeping the lights on and how much you spend keeping the lights on, as opposed to re-architecting and focusing on business process, re-engineering and improving operational IT efficiencies. Just some other sort of facts on there really. So there's a 7-to-7 service desk with options for 24/7 support. We do follow the sun because we do have customers around the globe in every category, be that North America, EMEA or Asia Pac. It's a fully managed service end-to-end, so we do all the patching, we handle all the security, we do the application updates, we do all the lifecycle management, we do all the software compliance. So it's pretty much a full outsourced service. On top of that, or not on top of it, as an aside to that, we then have the standard things you'd expect to see from the likes of Microsoft and Google. So the ability to do hosted Microsoft Exchange via online mail, so running your full Exchange platform but still integrated into your back-end systems. Online comms, I know we're in the Mito offices, but it is a Microsoft hosted OCS solution, or Microsoft Link. So the ability to effectively do a lot of that unified communication collaboration with full enterprise voice, PSD and breakout. Online workspace, which is user collaboration using SharePoint, document management, document repositories, etc. And then Microsoft CRM or the online CRM products using CRM 4.0. A bit of time. I did say I'll talk quickly, so I should be back on time. Okay, so I've already sort of touched upon some of the other sort of players in the market and how Intercept is for ourselves in terms of what we do. So we are a UK-based organisation with UK data centres, which means that all of our stuff complies with the European Data Protection Act and the UK Data Protection Act. There's been a lot of stuff written in the press recently about Microsoft, and they don't necessarily guarantee where the data is going to reside if you take one of their products from Office 365. So they have a data centre in Dublin, which is where they say they will do all your primary hosting. And they also have a data centre in Amsterdam where they theoretically should replicate your data too. But there's nothing guaranteed in the contracts about whether your data goes to Amsterdam, whether it goes off to Asia Pac, or whether it goes off to North America. Also, from a Microsoft perspective, there's something called the US Patriot Act, which is effectively a way that the US government can intercept any data sitting on a Microsoft server regardless of where it is in the world. It doesn't matter whether you're a UK organisation, a US organisation, European or Asia Pac. The US government, if they believe there's a reason for them to intercept your data, they can actually intercept it anywhere in the world. Same thing also applies to Google as well. So it's very important that when you start making your decisions, if you do move to a public cloud in any shape or form for a whole service or a selected part of that service, that you start to think about where the data resides. So you've got to be very, very careful when you start carrying out due diligence on these sort of things and the claims that providers make in terms of where your data is, where it's located and what that means to you. Some of the other things that obviously Microsoft and Google don't have that we do, they've got poor SLAs, 99.9%. That's averaged out over a 3-month period. So anybody that knows anything about service level agreements knows that it's almost impossible to breach that. You have to be down for about 3 days before you can actually breach that. It's quite difficult to do. There have been some very highly publicised issues about data loss from some of these cloud providers at the moment. That's something we're paranoid about. We did hold our hands up to lose some data about 5 years ago. It's never ever going to happen again in my lifetime. We've put all sorts of means and mechanisms in place to make sure that we cover it in terms of data replication. So we've got 9 years worth of track history and experience in terms of learning and evolution in terms of how to do this. And you're only ever as good as your last disaster, unfortunately. But we've obviously re-architected and sort of done things slightly differently to the way we did before. So just to sort of recap, the Intercept Cloud is a bespoke solution. It is very much designed for small to medium-sized enterprises, really from a hosted desktop perspective. But we do have multiple thousand user clients hosting their email with us. Some sort of very, very large, well-known sort of brands, which will be on a couple of slides' time, I believe it is. Guaranteed SLAs, penalty-driven SLAs, all measured on a monthly basis, month on month. And as I sort of touched on, all data resides in the UK. So why do organisations think about moving to public cloud? Driving down costs is a common one. So it's utility computing, it's pay as you go, pay as you grow, pay as you shrink. Lots of organisations are starting to downsize. Unfortunately, there are still lots of redundancies happening in the UK. And because this is a pay-as-you-go model, it's obviously you're only paying for the services you're using and the services you're actually consuming. So that's one of the key drivers. Consumerisation is here to stay. As I touched on before, this Facebook generation, the children of the 80s, the guys which are just used to consuming services on demand. So through our platform, we have a web-based control panel which will deliver services on demand. You need a new application, it's available as a generic set. Go into the control panel, add it, log off, log on, it's available. It's fully managed. We have built-in disaster recovery and business continuity. We're not FSA regulated ourselves, but we have about 12 clients which are governed by the Financial Services Authority. So we have very, very good processes and procedures around disaster recovery, business continuity, and making sure that systems can be recovered based on recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives, and that can be tailored to each individual application as well. Does it meet green initiatives? Possibly. Who's doing green just because it seems like a good idea? Nobody. Green is a byproduct of the natural evolution of where IT is going. It's through server virtualization, shrinkage, but green is actually for its own sake expensive to do. So green initiatives tend to be driven by another project where you can then leverage the green initiative because everybody wants to buy into the green message as part of corporate social responsibility. And again, what we're doing is driving down sort of costs and server footprints by bringing everything into data center, multi-tenancy, driving up the utilization of the servers, but getting more users effectively using the same bang for bucks, thereby reducing carbon footprint for some of our customers. As I already said, it's an enterprise class platform with an enterprise investment that's gone into it. So we have about £2.3 million worth of kit in our data centers, running about 6,000 users at the moment. But it's designed for sort of scalability, really. Again, this is more relevant to the sort of the SME market, but just re-emphasising that statement that Thomas Pittman made for the SME space, which is that over time, small businesses won't have economies of scale to make a web stable in IT. So, why do you not move to the cloud? Common one, lack of security. There's a perception that a cloud service will be less secure than something that you actually can run yourselves. Depends on your organisation. Some of you may have dedicated security specialists, teams looking after firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. But again, it depends on the nature of your organisation. We have dedicated security specialists looking after the firewalls, looking after the security, looking after the penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, two-factor authentication, etc. But I'm an IT guy. I'm not going to tell you my system's 100% secure. Nobody ever would. You're only as good as the best practice that you can have in place. But we know that US government gets hacked. I mean, all the high-profile stuff from Gary McKinnon a few years ago. So no system will ever be 100% secure. It's just about making and doing the best of it you can. We have lots of levels of antivirus protection, all that sort of stuff built in, everything you expect to see in an IT environment or enterprise class IT. All the data resides in the UK, as you expect, backed up to disk, snapshotted, backed up to tape, etc. Lots of control. As I said before, I'm a legacy guy in IT. I like to know my data is safe and secure under my control. Well, all my data is safe and secure under my control because it's in my data centers. But also, if you were to use our service, your data is in under my control to a degree, where we're making sure that we're looking after it using best practice to keep it all safe, secure, backed up and available. Certainly within the SME space, we tend to find that small to medium-sized businesses, you've normally got a senior business manager looking after the IT in the organisation. They're better driving forward the IT, not the IT, but driving forward their business to grow their business in these tough economic conditions, rather than actually focusing on the IT. So it's all about just repurposing and using people to do the best possible job. You don't build your own power stations, although you might have your own generators backing up your sort of offices and stuff. You don't run your own telephone sort of system in terms of breaking out to the public telephone network, but you might have an internal PBX. It's all about just repurposing staff and people and services for that sort of best possible use. No need for change. We're happy with what we've got. A lot of organisations may well be, but again, this consumerisation which is driving forward what your staff are going to be asking from you in the future moving forwards is going to need you're going to have to adapt and be responsive to the changes. And obviously there's outsourcing fears. Now, I hate the sort of term outsourcing. I'm sure most of you in the room probably do as well. Obviously there's been some very high profile sort of cock-ups, for want of a better word, from the likes of some of the big SIs. Department of Work and Pensions was a big one that went wrong recently. There's a whole host of sort of horror stories where sort of things go wrong. So we like the term cloud computing rather than outsourcing. It's selective sourcing. It's about choosing what you want to lose control of and then keeping the stuff that you want to retain. So why Intercept? We've been doing this for a long time now. So as a company, we're just over 9 and a bit years old. Just come to the end of our 9th financial year. Formed in 2002, around about 50 employees, all based in London. As I've already sort of touched upon, platinum partner with Citrix, enterprise partner with VMware, gold partner with Microsoft, plus a whole host of other accreditations. Lots of real world experience in terms of how we build and design systems, whether that's on-premise, building out virtualization solutions and extending your architecture to deliver things out to your clients, or whether it's running internal sort of private cloud stuff. We have, this is our marketing team trying to put together some numbers, virtualized over 10,000 servers in our sort of 9-year history. We've dealt with about 2,000 different line of business applications in terms of virtualizing them and delivering them via AppV or Softricity. And we've got around about 100,000 people where we manage services for them, either as an escalated third line support for the internal IT teams where they need more skills and experience around certain technologies. And we have about, as I say, 3,000 users roughly on our sort of hosted platform, 3,000-4,000 users. So, transitioning to the cloud, regardless of whether it's private, public, hybrid, whatever you want to refer to it as. We developed our own methodology, again, 9 years worth of experience, about 250 man years of knowledge has basically gone into develop our sort of methodology, which we call IMPACT, which stands for the INSET methodology for project acceleration and cloud transformation. Anybody think we tried to make those words fit the actual terminology? But it's a highly proven methodology. Again, slides probably slightly difficult to read, but the key phase of anything that you do in any project, if you're going to be doing any form of cloud deployment, where again that's private, public or hybrid, is to get definition right before you start. Clear understanding of what you need to do, how you're going to do it, before you then start moving on to the other phases. And then the other phases effectively will just sort of follow through. I think the slide deck's available to everybody. Absolutely at the end. Yeah. Just an example of some of the clients we work with. So obviously a number of councils on there, people like Basildon, Royal Borough of Windsor, Maidenhead, Chelmsford, Cardiff, lots of NHS trusts that we work with, Central North West London. Chris, can you help me out with some of the others? Imperial College, King's College, there's a few sort of different ones on there. Don't really need to sort of focus on that. So really just to summarise, cloud computing, it's not something new, it's the natural evolution of IT in terms of where IT services are going. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything radical or major change for your organisation. It's about taking services and extending them. If you've already got a massive internal IT department, that's great. It's all about taking those services and effectively giving your users the best possible computing experience so that they can consume those services from anywhere. They're not just tied to the office, they can log in from home. You can drive down and have a flexible working policy, 3 days a week in the office, 2 days at home, start to move hot desks around, shrink your footprint, start to reduce costs. And basically, just to summarise, wherever you are on your cloud journey, Britannic, in association within partnership with INSET, can help you, whether that's building out a private cloud or a public cloud. And that's me bang on time.